Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 9, Episode 12 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, their great selection of all-electric vehicles, and Cadillac products as well. You can also call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is proudly to announce that I am also now sponsored by Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West, 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. You can check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. Make sure you try on a welly today, and please drink responsibly as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, the home of Southern Talk and Sports, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and I'm excited to have my guest on tonight. This is her first appearance, and her name is Arma Benoit. She is a writer, director, producer, comedian, and the owner of her own company called Atlanta Breakaway, a female-owned supplier of rubber glass. And I'm excited to have Arma Benoit on, and we're going to bring her on right now. Good afternoon, Arma. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. How are things in Atlanta, Georgia right now?
Good. Surprisingly warm. It was getting cold and now it's warm again, and who knows. But yeah, everything's, Atlanta is Atlanta. So
I've never been there before, but I'm hoping to one day. And ironically, my show is in Noonan, Georgia, which is, I think it's about a half an hour outside of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. It's not too far. Yes, I've been to Noonan before. I was thinking about it. I don't know that I've performed anywhere near there, but maybe. I don't know.
How's the comedy industry right now, too? I guess you got a busy slate ahead.
Yes, it's right now I'm operating on no sleep, and I thought, oh gosh, it's only Tuesday. Like, it's the beginning of the week and I'm exhausted. Usually by the end of the week I'm worn out. But it's busy. It's a busy, I'm really excited for Atlanta comedy. I'm really, really excited for 2025 Atlanta comedy. Helium just opened up their new club here. So they've got 2 rooms, Helium Comedy Club, the national, so now we've got Helium, we've got Punchline, we've got Laughing Skull, and we still, of course, have Star Bar and Dynamic Eldorado and the locals. But, huge acts are coming through. I run an open mic once a week, and I get people that are nationally touring comics coming to the open mic. So it's, it's an exciting time for comedy in Atlanta right now.
Do you have some upcoming shows that you'd like to promote on here?
Yeah, I mean, I always say, if you follow me on Instagram, that's the best way to keep up with what my shows are, because I almost exclusively use Instagram to talk about what shows I've got coming up, and then I'll do, highlights of shows that I just did. So that's always the best way. This week, I've got shows. I'm doing a show tonight in East Atlanta Village at Mary's. It's a late one at 10. Tomorrow is a great one if you're going to be in Atlanta at Argosy at 8 o'clock. It's a good show with a good lineup. And then this weekend, I host an open mic on Saturdays and 529. I host it. I'm one of the rotating hosts in East Atlanta. But Saturday night, I'm going to be at the Nofo Brew Company in Gainesville, and that is going to be a really fun show. So that might be something fun. I can't think of the proximity of Noonan and Gainesville, but maybe they could come to that one. And that's going to be a really fun. It's an interactive show, so we do crowd work. We do our regular sets, and then I think that they said they're going to have buckets, and the comics have to pull from the buckets and then do make up stuff based on what they pull. I don't know.
Amazing. I wanted to ask you this too. How big is the comedy industry in Atlanta, Georgia, and the state of Georgia? And have you done any comedy outside of Atlanta and other cities and states?
I have. Atlanta has got a huge comedy scene, and I think by the end of next year we'll be, like even bigger. But it's got an established comedy scene. People respect it. Um, obviously we have not been. Our scene hasn't been around as long as say, Chicago or New York. But the people in Chicago and New York do not at all like poo-poo Atlanta, like, oh, it's just Atlanta. No, they recognize that Atlanta has got a great comedy scene. So that's really nice. We don't fight this uphill battle of like trying to prove ourselves as a real comedy town. Like we already have that respect because of the consistency of the people that we turn out that are on TV all the time that came from Atlanta. Like Clayton English, who's the last comic standing and that sort of thing. And as for me, yes, I have traveled out of town. The furthest north I got was Harrisburg, York area, and I did I think it was called the Good Karma Comedy Festival, and I did that up there. It was really fun. I found a good joke out of it because in Atlanta, when I went up there, all the guys like in the Northeast, all the men, they have like actual jobs. They're like, I'm a machinist, or they're Teamsters, or they're like, work with they have like all these like cool trade jobs. I'm drawing a blank at like one of them, but like cool stuff, And in Atlanta, everybody's a freaking entrepreneur. And so I said that's when I discovered that entrepreneur is just Southern for scammer. It's not an actual job title. But anyway, and so I've done that, and I've traveled. I've done shows in Chattanooga, and in fact, one of my goals for 2025 was to travel more. So I'm lining up some shows in Florida for February, and I've already lined up shows. I'm going to do Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Nashville end of January, beginning of February, and I'm hoping to just spend 2025 traveling further and further out,
Hopefully, you'll come to Buffalo, New York, which is only 2 hours from where I am, and also Canada. Everybody thinks of Canada as hockey, beer, and donuts, but there is a lot of comedy clubs here in Canada, and a lot of comedians that have come from out of here as well.
I've actually produced videos in Toronto. I've worked on several film projects in Toronto as a producer. So I know Toronto is like a hip, cool place. So I'm sure that I wasn't in the comedy scene at the time. That was when I was in my like late 20s, but I'm sure it's got a good scene.
How much has been being a producer and a director and a writer in your career has helped you with becoming a stand-up comedian?
I don't know that those roles, I mean, obviously it's all sort of interwoven because as a director and producer, you know what you're looking for certain characters, I guess. But I always wanted to do, directing and producing, but as a child, we weren't really sure. My mother didn't have any idea like how to do that, how do you train or anything. So she said she didn't know anything about it, just knew it probably had something to do with writing and acting. And so I began performing as a child as an actor. And it wasn't, I love it. And it just so happens that I'm good at it, but I always sort of had that storytelling goal in mind. All that to say, I trained classically as an actress for a very long time. And that helped a lot. Like that was, crucial for the comedy, but that was something like I got into acting and writing as a way to sort of learn about directing and producing, because as a child in the 70s, it wasn't like there was film school for kids and certainly not for girls. So that was my closest way to learn how to produce or direct. And it did help with storytelling, I guess. So once I went to film school and was actually directing and producing, I put the whole performance aside completely. At the time, you did not get any respect if you were a director or producer who also wanted to be an actress. You had to pick. And so I picked. But then later when I said, hey, I really do have some stories to tell. So comedy, so the performance and acting in film and television helped immensely with my performance as a comic. But I don't really know that necessarily producing and directing really fed into it as much.
How much has the industry changed in all the years and decades you've been in the industry?
Gosh, a lot. A lot. I mean, I started as a film loader, where the film came in this giant canister.
Oh, I remember those.
And you had
I
to
was
load
born in
it
I
in
was
the
born in the
dark.
70s.
Yeah, you had to load it in the dark, and only on like big movies did you have a camera truck that had a dark room, so you could just actually freely move. What you normally did was you had your hands in a tent, and the thing was in a tent, so you couldn't actually see inside of it or anything. You were doing it blindly, and so that's how old I am. Is there was film and the film cameras. So obviously, besides technology, the first giant change was technology. That was huge. Just I can't stress like how huge it was. Same with in the music industry, when everyone is now able to create things, it's a game changer. At the same time, you've run into the same problem, which is this complete dilution, I guess, of all of it. It's like before there was a little tiny pond, say, and it was heavily guarded, and you didn't get to be in the pond at all. Like that was a heavily guarded pond. And now you've got an ocean because anybody can be in it. Whereas, okay, cool, but it was a lot easier to find things in a pond than it is in an ocean. So there's it's like a gift and a curse. Like you can do a podcast now. You don't have to prove to some network executive, one of 5 people in the world, that gives you the opportunity to say, yes, you can do a podcast, Chris, or no, you can't. You know what I mean? At the same time, now it's completely up to you to market the podcast, sell the podcast, get sponsors, do all of that. Whereas before you would have them do that for you. So, that whole part has changed. And then obviously the pandemic, again, it's wild because I feel like I have really lived through some pretty massive, the technology change. I thought you can't top that. Like that's the exponential nature of the changes in the tech was so huge. I couldn't possibly have foreseen anything would have changed it bigger. And the pandemic said, hold my beer, and changed everything, because streaming was already a thing, but it wasn't a thing like it is now. The pandemic changed so much. And again, good and bad, like your podcast, it afforded me the ability to direct for the first time, truly, outside of just my own projects. Because when you're working on a nationally syndicated TV show, I'm making a lot of money, even if I'm in a minor position. If I'm the art department coordinator on the Vampire Diaries, I'm getting paid well, especially if you're into season 8. That's big girl money. And then if this girl wants me to direct her music video, it's going to take 2 weeks and I need to drive to Myrtle Beach. She's going to put me up, but you can't really do that. You know what I mean? Like you've built your life around this show. So the pandemic cleared the slate and I directed the crap. I was like, yes, I will direct whatever music video you want, spec commercials, hire me. Yes, I'll do it. I don't care if it's a lot of money, not a lot of money. What are we doing anyway? And it afforded me the opportunity to really hone that craft, So anyway, that changed everything. And then finally, I would say these past year and a half, yet again, completely turned everything on its ear all over again with the strikes. And it completely changed everything. And now it's all different. So I can't overstate the fact that everything is so vastly different. And again, good and bad. You won't find me going like, it used to be better in the good old days, or that everything is perfect now either. It's the same as everything, Chris. Like it's good and bad.
The technology really has shrunk the world. And also, too, I wanted to ask you this, since you're a producer and a writer and a director too. That strike, I don't think writers and producers and directors get enough credit, in my opinion.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that the staff writers don't get enough credit. I think the producers and the directors get plenty of credit. They get plenty of credit. Now, listen, here's the thing. On huge stuff, I'm a support staff and I'm in service of telling other people's stories. And then on small projects currently, I'm, get to do that. So I'm not directing network TV today. I'm going to be, but I don't want to, I'm not as interested in directing just as a gun for hire. I want to tell my stories, Chris. So that's my, my sort of next goal. But I do think that the producers and the directors, in my experience, they do get lots of credit. They get lots of credit. They get lots of money. They get the good parking spots, and nobody yells at them because they're the bosses. What I think the people that don't get the credit are the staff writers. They're the writer's assistants. They're the regular people, that have really taken a hit through this, especially because there used to be these giant rooms and there was room for a lot of inexperienced writers, talented, but inexperienced. And they were held fine by this group of really experienced people, and they became experienced. And that's how writers did it. And then cost cutting shrank those rooms. So now if you had 9 people in a room, 3 of them could be kind of experienced, but good writers, and it would be fine, because the rest of the people in the room are excellent at making sure those plot lines are hit and making sure that all the structure is correct and all of that, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to stress. Whereas if there's 4 people in the room, Chris, then all 4 of them better be freaking great. And so now what do new people do? What do the less experienced people do? Where are they? They're not working. That's what they're doing. They're driving your freaking Uber is what they're doing. So, so I think that change has happened, and I don't think it's grand. Cost cutting, unfortunately, is tough.
For those people that are watching our show live streamed or on audio or on WQE 99.1 FM, and they're interested in producing, directing, or specifically writing for TV shows or movies, or even doing comedy writing, what advice would you give to those people?
Write every day. Write. It's just like exercise. It doesn't work if you just do it sometimes. There's only a result if you do it every day or if you stay consistent with it. So I think consistency is a big thing, and have completed work. If you are inexperienced and you've got a complete script, that's a big deal. I forget who it was, but there used to be a producer that said he used to offer people $500 if they actually had the script, because he said people would stop him all the time and say, I got this idea for this show. I got this great idea for this movie. I got this great idea for this thing. And he'd say, if you have a script, I'll give you $500 for it. And he said never, not one time did he pay $500 to somebody that stopped him, also, but the people that have the scripts probably know the correct what to do with the script, and aren't going to just stop the guy on the street. But, so have a script, have something. It's one thing to want to be a writer. It's another thing to say, I wrote a script. It could be a sitcom. It could be a scene. It could be a series of scenes. You know what I mean? But have something. If you want to start as a writer, write and get a portfolio together, and that would be my first, bit of advice. And as far as comedy writing, if you mean like jokes and stuff, that's, that's different, because those things are meant to be performed on a stage. So unfortunately, the only way to try those and to write comedy is you write it, but then you have to perform it. And then you figure out like wording changes, and you have to do it a bazillion times in front of a bazillion different audiences in different circumstances and clubs and stuff. And then the writing kind of happens there.
Wanted to ask you this too. During the pandemic, which I started my radio podcast career, I did watch some comedy from Flappers in Burbank, California through Zoom, and it was good, but it wasn't the same as actually being in a comedy club. And I just wanted to ask you, did you do any live streaming performance during the 2-year pandemic?
I did not. Now, I was not actually really doing comedy at the time. I took a class for writing comedy structure and then performing at in March. And I did a show at the Punchline in Atlanta in March of 2020. And 1 week later, everything shut down. And then by the time that it came back, things opened up. The film business was bananas busy, like so busy. So I worked nonstop for 2 straight years. There was no time to hit any comedy clubs or to even think about any of that. So I put that off. So I wasn't actually doing comedy during the pandemic. But I watched like 2 Zoom comedy shows, and it was so painful. One of them had embarrassing props, and it was just And these are people that I know are funny. I've seen, and they are funny, but it only works with an audience and being right there. And it just felt embarrassing and awkward and horrible. Yeah, no, nobody ever wants to do Zoom comedy again. It's so bad.
It wasn't the same. And as much as I love doing this show virtually, since the pandemic ended 2 years ago, I do a lot of in-person interviews too. And there's nothing better. Obviously, I'm not a comedian. There's not talking someone face to face and having to think on your feet. And I'm sure that's the same for being in the comedy industry in front of a live audience.
Yeah, you definitely have to be able to be quick on your feet. That's for sure. I mean, these days, most of the places give a disclaimer about heckling at the beginning of the show, and they really discourage it. And there's not a lot of. I have been fortunate. There's not been too much heckling. I am certain that once I go out west and to certain other places, I will experience that, and we'll see. I had a guy drunk the other day at a show that was so wasted, but it wasn't even a heckle because they got like carted off. And that in that case, you kind of just have to go with it. But yeah, I mean, it is people drinking at clubs, so you never know what's going to happen.
How much of our politically correct society now, not just in the States, but in Canada and around the world, how much has that affected the comedy industry, if at all?
I mean, I don't think at all. I haven't seen, I can't name a single comic that isn't allowed to do comedy anymore because they said something inappropriate. The only comics I know that can't do comedy anymore, like assaulted people, you know what I mean? Like physically assaulted people. So that's not really a political correctness. That's a, you know, that's a criminal charges kind of situation. So I don't know. I can't think of a single comic that doesn't get to perform comedy anymore because they said something inappropriate. So I don't think that's real. I've never seen anybody say, oh, I used to do comedy, but I can't do comedy at any clubs anywhere because I made one joke that nobody liked. I've seen people make plenty of jokes that nobody likes. And the worst thing that happens is we say that joke sucks, it didn't get laughs, and then they don't do it. I've never seen anybody crush with a questionable joke. Let me put it that way.
When you're at a show, do you prefer to be the opener, the middle act, or at the end? And when you're doing live performances, do you have any rituals before a show? And how long did it take for you to sense audience's mood?
Oh gosh. Okay. So let's see. The beginning, that was like several questions. So, um, what was the first part of the question?
Just when you're doing a live performance, do you have any rituals or superstitions? And then how long does it take to engage an audience? And do you like to be the open act at a
Oh, that
show?
was the
Or
part, was where do
yeah,
I like to go?
yeah.
That was the part I couldn't think of.
So I apologize. I should have wrote that down or put it on my graphics.
Don't apologize. I'm the space cadet. Like I said, I happened to get up at 4 a.m. yesterday, accidentally, and never went back to bed, and then didn't get in till 1 because I had a show last night. So, and then had to be up at 7 this morning. So I'm still operating on, like, I'm in a fog. Okay. So there's actually a structure to how it works in comedy. So the least experienced person goes first, and the next experienced person goes next, and the most experienced person goes last. And that's the way it works, like in a showcase. So the final person is the headliner, and the second person is the feature, and I guess the first person's the opener. I don't know. There's specific titles for it. So for me, I go where I belong on that list. If I'm the most experienced person, like sometimes I'll do shows in smaller towns and I headline. And I should be headlining because I am the most experienced comic on that billing. But when I'm in Atlanta, it would be, unless it's my birthday, this year right now. Now, next year, I think I can do some end of the show stuff in Atlanta. But there are people that go on Jimmy Kimmel in Atlanta that I work with. There are people that tour nationally that are, like real, like big time comics. And there's no possible way that I should be going on after them. I should always be opening for them because that's just ridiculous. I'm not funnier than the person who won Last Comic Standing. Okay. Let's be realistic. And I shouldn't go after them. I should go way, way, way before them. On a show with somebody that big, I'm the 5-minute opener and so happy to be on the billing. Are you kidding me? that's where I am. So I want to be always where I'm appropriately placed. If I'm the young, the newest, I should go first. And I never mind that. Because it's right. As far as rituals and stuff like that, no. I try to always watch as many sets as I can before I go up, because that's how you figure out the audience. Like you don't get to see the audience if you're hiding backstage the whole time. So I try to watch any comic that's before me, because also if they make friends with Susan and Bill in the front row, then you can reference Susan and Bill or something like that. Or if something funny happens, you can do a callback to it or whatever. You know what I mean? You can also see like who's hostile or who's not having it or whatever. So that's honestly, hopefully you have gotten some feel for the audience, but as someone who is, relatively newer in comedy, that's still something that I'm working on, is not just getting out there and barreling through the material, but like, having an experience with them. And I do that now. I'm not like brand new where I just go out and go, no, I'm going to tell my jokes now. Okay, thank you, bye. Like when you're brand new. But you still do have to kind of gauge it. And then if they suck and they're just not responsive, you have to be able to move forward as if you're crushing. You can't, like, you want to feed off of it unless it's terrible.
How important is ab-libbing? And for my audience or audience watching and they've never seen you perform live before, how would you describe yourself as a comedian?
Goofy and all over the place. Yeah, definitely goofy and all over the place. Oh my gosh, Chris, I swear I'm a space cadet. What was the first part of the question?
The first part was how would you describe yourself, your comedy style, and the other one, I wanted to ask you, when you go on show, what's the time length? Like, is it 5 minutes normally, or a 10-minute, 15 minutes?
Totally depends on
Okay.
On that. And the ritual, I never answered that either, but no, it totally depends on the show, because some shows, like I'm doing one tonight, I'm doing a roast, and everybody gets the same amount of time, and like on Saturday we all get 10 minutes, because Saturday, the one I was pitching in Gainesville, this is going to be that's the interesting one where you're doing like the crowd work and all that. So that's not people doing their sets, and so the funniest goes last. That's just random order, and everybody gets this 10 minutes. And then if I'm doing a big show and I'm opening, I probably get 5 minutes. And then I've done, the longest I did was 25 minutes. I did a headline show in Athens, and that was fun. So I do those, and I don't really have any rituals. Right before I go up on stage, I want to be alone for just a split second and just kind of get in my head, and you kind of just run through it real quick, and you've got the outline of what you're doing, and that's it. But no, I'm not like a superstitious person. I don't like pat my head and, count to 10 or anything.
And I would imagine too, even if you come to a show that you're feeling tired, as soon as you get up on that stage, I can sense how passionate you are. The adrenaline kicks in, just like with my my radio podcast show. The other night, I was up for 15 hours, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this show. And as soon as I opened this up and started talking to my guests, the adrenaline kicked in.
Definitely. Yeah. And then you're doing something that you like too. So, nobody's forcing you to do that. And so that's, yeah, because if you're not enjoying comedy, it's what's the point? Because very few people are getting, are millionaires off of it. So you better be enjoying it at least.
What's the biggest audience you've performed in front of so far? And have you ever seen anybody have stage fright in front of an audience so far in your career, in the comedy career?
Let's see, the biggest audience. Well, I just performed at Red Clay, but it wasn't quite sold out. I do these 51st joke shows in Athens, and that's at the 40 watt, and it's usually packed. So I don't know. And I did like 200 people at the Punchline. So probably a couple hundred people at this point. I can't think that I've done anything bigger than that. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. No, I think like 200, something like that.
Okay. Who were some of your, I'm going to reword this. Who were some of your early influences
for comedy
and mentors in your career?
Oh, okay. Look,
Yes.
you know what? I'm just looking at that. Honestly, It's so terrible to say this because I never really watched a lot of stand-up. I watched the same stand-up that everybody else watched. We all watched that Chris Rock special, when it first came out. And of course we watched Richard Pryor. I grew up watching, Eddie Murphy, all of
Yep.
those people. Joan Rivers is the only, she was the only female comic. And then when I was in college, Ellen DeGeneres came out. And so Ellen was really funny too. The thing is, though, at the time, I had no aspirations for being a comic whatsoever. I never thought about comedy until 2020. So that just wasn't something that really happened so organically. It wasn't like I had comedy people that I thought about. So honestly, I would say my biggest comedy influence and mentor is Lace Larrabee, who is a comedian that's in Atlanta, and she's a real life person that I know, and she's amazing and she's a good one. And rather than name like some famous person that I don't know that I looked up to, because there isn't anybody, Lace is a comic that I still look up to. She's still aspirational in her career. So.
And what's not really funny, but in doing this show for almost 5 years, I've had 450 guests. I've had a number of guests on from different professions, and a lot of them seem to have switched careers in March of 2020 when this pandemic started. So I guess I'm not the only one that decided to switch careers during the pandemic as well.
Well, and technically I didn't switch careers. I still work in film and television. That's my career and that's what I love. But I added a piece.
Absolutely. And also, how important is it to wear many hats? Like with me, I'm the producer, the host, the content creator, I'm the marketer, I edit video and stuff like that. In your industry, how important is it to wear many hats?
I mean, in the gig economy, it's important to wear many hats because you kind of have to. And like we were talking about earlier, if you don't have a studio behind you that's doing all those things, that has departments to handle all of that, then it's not really a choice, but you kind of have to. So in those cases, it's crucial is how important it is. But for me, I'm looking forward to having teams. I'm just now starting to work with teams of people to say, like, I've got a team that's working. I have a writing team that I'm working with because we have a pilot that we're selling. And so we're working on future episodes so that when because we filmed the pilot and then we can present future scripts as well. And I've got PR people that I work with. And so having teams for me is huge. Like, I don't want to wear all the hats anymore, Chris. You can have all the hats. I don't need a hat. Like, I'm tired because as a small business owner, like, I have to wear the hats on that. And after a while it gets tiring.
And I wanted to use the word too, for any career, the word burnout. You don't want to do that either, end up burning out as well. And one thing too, talking to musicians and comedians, they're different professions, but both are very passionate and they both look at their profession as therapy as well. Because comedy right now, we need a lot more comedy and with music too. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it's so true. And even though it's also weird because it's tough because when bad things are happening or people feel weird, it feels strange and inappropriate to be making jokes. And yet at the same time, people really, really need it. With music, it's a little different because you can actually write sad songs. So if people are feeling sad, then they like that sad song. They want to listen to it and feel sad. With comedy, you got to be funny all the time. There's no like, tonight we're having sad comedy. So it's interesting to see how people, how they twist it and make it funny. And, how do you bring up things that have happened, that aren't maybe funny that we need to laugh about, kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, believe me, I have the feeling, that we're going to all need comedy a lot.
Absolutely. Hey, is it okay if I play a little clip of one of your performances?
Sure.
Yeah, I guess it was a brewery joke since one of my sponsors is the brewery. And
Okay.
This is courtesy of your YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Arma Benoit's YouTube channel, and I've already subscribed. Please let me know if you can hear the audio okay. Give 1 second.
There we go. All right. I'm Arma Benoit, and I'm happy to be here at Reformation Brewery because that is a hell of a word to say. Why is it so hard, y'all? And of course, it's like a trick on drunk people because that's who has to say it, Makes you sound drunk before you even get here. Like, where are you at? I'm at the brewery. I think I am. So parking my car. I don't know.
Thoughts on that little clip right there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there are so many comedy shows that happen nowadays in breweries. And in fact, on Saturday, but they had the decency to call themselves the Nofo Brew Co. So they're just called a brew company instead of a brewery. And we also have some now that say brewing instead of brewery because it's such a difficult word to pronounce. And so usually when you come out on stage or the performance area, you're going to say like, thank you, Laughing Skull, hello, Punchline, or whatever. And so you say like, hello, Reformation Brewery. But my God, it's really hard to get it out. You're like, blah, blah, blah. And I thought these people are going to think I'm drunk before I've even started my set. So I just made a joke about it and everyone could relate.
And Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is sponsored by Wellington Brewery, a local craft beer here in Guelph since 1985. Had to get that plug in. Wanted to ask you this too. I've had comedians on from the States and Canada as well. And I've had some of them, they don't have any clips on YouTube. And they said because there's a lot of theft in the comedy industry as well. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I'm not at a level where I'm monetizing that much my YouTube just yet. We're getting there. We're working on it. My production company, Group 129, has a YouTube that I use, but I'm just now building up my personal one. So, for me, that's not relevant. I think that was a concern for people earlier is that they're going to steal jokes and stuff. But the truth is people are going to steal your jokes. I mean, they're going to steal your jokes. For me, it's also like a timestamp. So if you put that joke up there, then you can say, hey, I told this joke on this night at this place. So I didn't steal it. Like I told this joke first or whatever, if it ever came to that. But I mean, the truth is people are going to steal your joke. That's just going to happen. And I'm not, that's not going to really hurt my career that much. I don't, no one, if someone were to go viral with one of my jokes and make millions of dollars off something that's clearly my bit, I've got enough proof. In fact, if you showed my clip, then I would have more proof than if I hid it from people, so I don't know. I don't get that logic. It's not what I think.
Are you okay for a few more questions, a few more minutes?
Totally.
Okay. What was the experience like in producing music videos for Outkast, Goodie Mob, and Lil Jon?
Those guys are great. All of the music videos that I did were really fun. Producing is stressful. Producing rap videos is crazy stressful. You're working with not the crew, but everyone else. So normally in film, you've got studio executives, and these are people that work in film. And their executives and the accountants and all the bean counters and all those people are film people. When you do a music video, just the crew are film people, but all the people that you're dealing with, they're all music people. And a lot of them are literally like the rapper's cousin. Now, some of the rapper's cousins in their defense are actually really savvy business people. And a lot of those guys became business executives, rightly so. But then there's also people that are just somebody's cousin that have no idea what they're talking about, and they want what they want, and they don't understand how budgets work, how permits work, that we're going to get shut down if we bring 5,000 people and put them in the middle of the street and decide to film them, or just crazy stuff. So there was always some craziness and wild whatevers, but man, it was fun, and we were all young and did not understand. None of those guys were famous back then. So we were all kids just having a good time, having no idea how impactful and huge the stuff that we were working on would become.
Like growing up here in Canada in the 70s and then the early 80s, we had MTV in 1981, Much Music here in 1984 in Canada. How much has the music industry changed over those times? And music videos, they used to be every day I come home from school and I'd want to watch a music video, and it just seems like it's not like it used to be.
Yeah, it was an event. You remember that it would be an event that these music videos, you would have to be home at a certain time so you could catch the very first one. Yes. And that was also the only time you could see it. You couldn't just go watch the videos anywhere. Yes, and when I first started making music videos, they were very well funded. Like even like not huge artists were getting giant amounts of money for these videos, and they were huge productions. Now Taylor Swift and Beyonce and artists of that level are making, if you're Adele, then you're making a feature film type of music video. But everybody else is literally going out with a camcorder and shooting themselves like in a Jeep in a gas station parking lot. Like the music videos that get produced right now are trash. Like they're terrible unless you're Megan Thee Stallion. And then she gets to have the feature film, and her videos are incredible. I love them. In fact, I know the video commissioner that works on her stuff. But so unfortunately, it's like that whole middle class is gone now, and the music videos are they're trash.
It's sad to see that. And gonna put you on the spot here. Are you a Swiftie or not? Yes or no?
Yes, totally. I'm such a Swiftie. I dressed up like her and went and saw the movie in a costume. That's how much I am a Swiftie. So yes.
What makes her so successful?
I think because she is authentic to who she is, and we've all seen her grow up and mess up and get mistreated and come back from it. And we've seen her make her own mistakes and take ownership of her mistakes, and watched her succeed, and watched her, gain agency of her life and her career. And we watched her get knocked down and come back. And I think that's the inspiration, for me as someone who's considerably older than her. It was very inspirational to see how she got treated as a woman in business, especially as a successful woman in business, because it always made you realize, like, if this is how they treat successful women in business, then what about all the rest of the women who are on their way to becoming successful, but aren't even considered successful yet? Like, what are they dealing with? That's what I was dealing with, where they don't even need to pretend, and so I think that's why, like, she was open with her struggles, and we watched them, and they, resonated with all of us. I think with the younger women, her relationship struggles resonate with them. But for me, what resonated was all of her business struggles and her triumphs. That's for me 100%. Like, I was like, oh, I'm totally down with this girl.
And that leads to this question. Can you just explain being an advocate for equality in film and television and the importance of fair working conditions and creative freedom?
You got to be a squeaky wheel, and it's a real pain. And I have always been that. And I am positive I would be further along in my career if I hadn't been such a stinker. But I was always a stinker. I almost got fired a bunch of times for pointing stuff out. I won't say which movie because I'll get in trouble, but I worked on a movie, and someone had the bright idea, someone that is not from the South, and guess what, is white, had the idea that they were going to decorate a party scene with Confederate flags. And I said, you can't do that. I said, that would be like decorating the party scene with swastikas. And they said, it would not be the same thing at all, and we're doing it. And I said, you can't do it, and I will make a stink. It's wrong, and you can't do it. It's not a decoration. It's literally like, like, do you understand like how bad it is? Like, that's so bad. You can't do it. And this person was way, way, way above me. And it became a thing. And I got people involved, and I got in a lot of trouble. And that person tried to fire me. And only because of the nature of what I was complaining about, they were scared to fire me. But they all would have fired me, Chris. They all would have fired me. And I don't care. I was like, whatever. And so they didn't use it. And they're so glad now, because if they had, then they couldn't. It was a movie. It wasn't even a TV show. So a TV show, you could just scrap the episode if it's questionable, but they would have had to scrap, a lot of the movie. And I saved them. And, instead it's all about like, oh, you almost got fired because, you didn't want that. So I think you have to be willing to get in trouble. I worked with Sarah Jones, who was killed by that train because those jerks did not want to follow rules and regulations, and wanted to save money, and people died, and someone else lost their arm. And you know what I mean? Like, is it worth it for what? What are we doing here? So, and that is, And the thing that breaks everybody's hearts, and there's no pointing fingers because I know most of those crew people, but nobody felt safe to say, hey, this isn't right. This is wrong. We shouldn't do this, because you're so freaking worried that you're going to lose your job. Right. And until it's just so bad. After Sarah was killed, we all started saying, hey, we're going to speak up. And now we encourage everyone to speak up, and you have to speak up. And that's part of the deal. But the only good to come out of that, besides that, is that conversation opened up into the other speak ups. If you see other things, speak up too. And if you find yourself on a crew in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's no Black people, then you yell as loudly as possible, where are the Black people? Because there's no excuse for it. And I will yell, where are they? Because it's Atlanta. There should be mostly Black people on the crew. And if they're not, then you're purposefully not hiring Black people, because it's Atlanta. That is who's here. Like, if I go to Iowa, I would expect it's probably a lot of white people on the crew, because it's Iowa. We're in the middle of a farm, or something. But, so that's how, by speaking up, by being a pain, that's how you get equitable, and by everybody doing it.
Do you find, beside yourself, you're finding more people out there speaking up and standing up for themselves?
Yes, and Gen Z is the best. I know everybody somehow. I'm not a millennial. I'm a Gen X, but
Same here.
Millennials seem to have some issues with Gen Z. Not me. I love Gen Z. They're my favorite generation so far outside of Gen X. They're the best, and they stick it to the man like we never did. We were punk rock and all, but we still listened to our elders. They're like, no. That's the nurses that are telling the surgeons, no, you don't talk to me like that. And the older nurses are like, oh, but it's a surgeon. And they're like, I don't care. And it's like, that's right. You shouldn't care. Nobody should get to talk to you nasty. They should already be nicer to you, because they're bazillionaires and you're not making anything. You're getting an hourly wage. They should already be nicer to you, not the opposite. Why do we have to be nicest to the richest people? That don't make sense. They
By
should
the way,
treat the maid the best, right?
In my former career, I was in corporate security for 23 and a half years. And I thought this new generation, I thought they were lazy. They didn't have any motivation. But since switching over to radio and media 5 years ago, I've worked with a lot of people that are in their 20s, early 30s, and they're really supportive of me. They didn't care about how old I am or if I'm self-taught. They have not been judgmental. So, you know what? I made a I thought they were something else, but I was wrong. So I tell people, don't judge someone based on their age alone.
That's good advice. And that's it. They're so accepting and so open-minded about so many things that I think is so cool. Yeah, I love that.
And before we wrap up our show, I do this with all my guests. What are some fun Arma Benoit? And can you just quickly tell us a little bit about your company, Atlanta Breakaway?
Sure. Okay. So Atlanta Breakaway is something I'm really proud of. I make breakaway glass products and things like that. And my biggest seller is rubber glass. So it's it's clear rubber glass. It looks just like glass, but it's made out of rubber. And they use it in films all the time. So say if you have a car accident and you need glass to go flying, even the fake breakaway glass you can't shoot through the air because it's brittle and it could hurt people. So they use it for stuff like that. And I'm the only female-owned company that makes that. And I also am the only company in Georgia that really makes it. They used to have to ship it from California, and I taught myself over the period of about a year and a half. And now I've expanded into, I've got breakaway bottles and breakaway vases and breakaway glasses and things like that. I also make a lot of fake rivets and fake bolt heads and things like that. I've worked for Stranger Things, if you look at my website, it's got the list of clients, but if it's a TV show or a movie that was filmed in Atlanta, I probably did something for them. I just make a lot of fake stuff because it's cheaper. If you think about like a big metal rivet and installing it, and it makes it, like the head of that thing makes it look industrial, but it's really labor intensive to install those things and they're expensive. So if you could just get a plastic thing that looks like it, painted to look like it's made of metal, and they could just epoxy them, you know, they don't have to deal with the actual rivets. It's so cost effective, and they can make this big thing and it still looks like a big industrial. Oh, it's safe. Nobody can get in. Look at all those rivets. So that's what Atlanta Breakaway does. And then fun facts about me. I grew up in France. Je parle un petit peu de français. Speak some French, and
Amazing.
other than that, I'm a goofball.
Any plans to expand your business outside of Atlanta?
Well, my company sells to pretty much the Southeast, you know, anybody
Okay.
that's doing stuff like that. My brand of Arma Benoit as the comic and filmmaker, yes, I would like to expand that brand this year. Or next year. That's the 2025 goal, is to expand that reach.
Do you have a website for Atlanta Breakaway?
I do. Atlanta Breakaway. It's atlantabreakaway.com.
And also the Group 129, is that your baby as well?
It is. I have two companies. That's the side that does all the film stuff. So Group 129, and it's just the numbers 129, group129.com. And that's all my film projects. And it's also the company that I use to produce comedy shows through.
Absolutely. And before we wrap this up, do you have any other projects that you have coming up in?
Well, like I said, I'm shopping a pilot,
too?
and I can't get too into it, but yes, we're shopping a pilot, and it's looking good. So I'm hoping 2025 is the year that we finalize contracts and get that thing on television.
I can't believe you just said that word, 2025. It's like,
know.
I remember the 70s and 80s and even the 90s. It's like, where has the time gone?
I know. It just keeps on going, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And finally, where can my audience follow you on social media?
Happily, it's just everything is my name. So everything is Arma Benoit. Facebook, TikTok. Instagram is the best one to keep up with my comedy career. TikTok is the best one to keep up with just how goofy I am. And Facebook is just Facebook.
And I want to say, hey, Arma, I want to say thank you so much for giving us some time out of your busy schedule. Continue success in your career. And you have an open invite to come back on my show again in the future. And if you can give me a little bit of time tonight, I will send you the video and the audio copy of this show as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to give a quick shout out to Frank as well for arranging this as well.
Definitely. Frank and Karen over at EXP. Thank you so much. Well, take care.
Thank you so much. You too. Thanks. Have a great day, Arma.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was Season 9, Episode 12 with Arma Benoit. She's a director, producer, comedian, professor at Georgia Film Academy, which I forgot to mention. And she's also the owner of her own company called Atlanta Breakaway Rubber Glass. And you can check out her website at linktree/Arma Benoit. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I'm going to do a little bit of a video clip with Jeff Morrison from November. It is that month for men's being tested for cancer. And I interviewed Jeff Morris, who's a chairman on the Movember KW committee in Kitchener-Waterloo. So I'm going to air that clip right now. Just give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find it right here. And we're going to play it right on here on my show. This technology is great at times, but there it is. I just found the clip, and I'm gonna play it. Just 1 second, and it's Jeff Morrison from Movember, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, and I'm gonna play that episode right now. I'm just trying to put it on here, and again, I want to say thank you to Arma Benoit for coming on today as well, and I look forward to having her back on again in the future. So I'm gonna play this interview right now with Jeff Morrison from KW's Movember. And I'm just going to, just 1 second, technical glitch. And we'll get this going. Guys, it happens live. 1 second. And this is Jeff Morrison. And this was done at Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West in Guelph, Ontario. And Wellington Brewery is now a beer sponsor of Live with CDP Sports Talk. This is part 2 with Jeff Morrison and my interview with Jeff, one of the chairman of KW Movember. Jeff, we were just talking about the beer of this year that was in proceeds from Wellington Brewery. Walrus, can you just tell us a little bit about this new beer?
Absolutely. So Wellington Brewery, actually, as I said before, they host this every single year. They produce a new beer every year. As part of the fundraising, what we do is at our golf tournament, we host an auction that someone gets to win and name the beer and actually decide what kind of beer is actually going to be produced this year. So we did have someone who won it this year. His name is Rick Nigel. He came in and he wanted a heavier beer because he likes the heavy beers and the dark beer. So he produced a Walrus Wee Heavy Scotch Ale that is on sale now in Wellington Brewery. And again, come on by, have a pint, have a can, and for every can that you get, we actually have donated Toronto Maple Leafs autographed jersey from Joseph Wall. And if you come in and grab a pint or a can, you'll be entered into for your chance to win one of those jerseys.
Can you tell us about some of your sponsorships with Movember?
Yeah, sponsorships have been great. We have a lot of local sponsors here. So what I try and do is stay around the Kitchener, Waterloo, and Guelph area, find some local businesses that are just trying to promote themselves. They usually can donate a couple of their products that we bring out and we advertise their business. We have links to their business on our website. And we try and tell all the Movember supporters that if you're going to support Movember, you can support the local establishments as well.
And who are some other people that have been a part of Movember since you've been a part of this agency?
So our sponsorship, Wellington Brewery has been our major sponsor. So they've been here from day one. Otherwise, we have, as I said before, the local sponsors. We have some businesses, some insurance agencies that step in. We have some local sports teams. So the Guelph hockey teams have stepped up. Kitchener Rangers have stepped up. They donate tickets. They donate a lot of their swag in order to bring in a few more people to want to join their business and also support Movember at the same time.
Are you guys selling merchandise as well as the black sweatshirt hoodie you got on?
The black sweatshirt I do have on is actually for sale. We do this through a company called Fat Dave. Fat Dave actually supplies a lot of our merchandise, whether they're t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats. And what he does is for every jersey or shirt or sweatshirt purchase, he donates a percentage of that back to the Movember team.
And what time is this event going here tonight at Wellington Brewery at 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph?
We started at 5 o'clock and we're going till 7:30 tonight. The open house is just to promote the launch of the new beer, the Wee Walrus. We also are going to be hosting a Movember End party at Wellington Brewery as well. And the Movember End party is a big shave off. So we're going to have some live music, some entertainment, some beverages flowing, and some great conversations going. And we're going to have a professional barber here shaving off all the mustaches at the end of the month.
And for those people that are watching this interview or listening, and they're in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph area, and they want to get involved as a volunteer, what's the best way for somebody to get involved as a volunteer or even a sponsorship from another business here?
To volunteer from Movember, you can do that anytime you want. You can join any team you want. You go to movember.ca. If you want to volunteer and do something locally for your local mustache, you can actually call me. You can reach me at j-mo.ca is my website. It's got all the information on there. Or you can email me at jmoriso@gmail.com and we'll add you to the team, give you some support. And if you want to make any donations as far as prizes or monetary donations, we accept those as well to have our campaign be more successful.
And thoughts on Lisa McDonald and Diane Morgan?
They've been an amazing partnership through the KW Movember partnership that way. They host many events as well. We support each other as far as our events. So I will attend some of Lisa and Diane's events. They will attend my own. I think between Guelph, Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo, we have a good group there that's actually helping each other and establishing a lot more conversations that take place for Movember and a lot more funds being raised.
And what's a fun fact about Movember?
Fun fact about Movember is a way to tell everybody is my number one thing is don't fear the finger. It's not an actual bad test. It's a blood test that you have to get done to get checked. So my number one thing for everybody is just go get checked. It's just ask your doctor for a PSA test and just make sure you're safe.
All right, Jeff, and final thoughts before we wrap up this interview, Jeff.
I just want to say that the whole point of Movember is obviously to raise money and to raise awareness, but awareness is number one. Start a conversation with a friend now. Start a conversation with a family member, an employee, someone outside. We support mental health. We support prostate cancer and testicular cancer. If we can just save one Mobro every year, that's our goal. It's just have one person talk to their doctor, talk to a friend, and save some lives.
And finally, I was going to say, and make sure you see your doctor on a regular basis as well.
Make sure you see your doctor and keep asking for that PSA test. The PSA test, again, it's a simple blood test, and it could save your life in the end.
And again, Jeff, what's the website?
Website you can go to is j-mo.ca, or you can actually go to Movember's site is Mobro, mobo.co/jmostache, JMOSTACHE.
All right. Well, Jeff, I want to say thank you so much for doing this again. Everybody check out Movember's website again. And Jeff Morrison, continued success for this. And thank you so much for doing this tonight.
Appreciate it so much. And thanks for coming out and supporting us.
You're welcome, Jeff. And we're just going to show you the Joseph Wall jersey that was signed and is here at Wellington Brewery. If you want to come by Wellington Brewery, 950 Woodlawn Road West, here in Guelph, not far from the Barry Cullen Chevrolet as well. And they have a great selection of beer products, as you can see as well. All right, guys, that's Chris Pomiao from Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. That was courtesy of my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe and like notification. I'm trying to get to 500 YouTube subscribers. And to those who have subscribed and viewed my channel, thank you so much. And again, that was Jeff Morrison from the Kitchener-Waterloo Movember. And you can check out the website ca.com if you'd like to make an online donation as well. Some other news, guys. The next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by barrycullen.com and wellingtonbrewery.ca, is going to be on Thursday, November 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern with my special guest. Her name is Natasha Caverderis. Hopefully I'll get that name right. She is a professional wrestler, and she's also a former power lifter. And I'm excited to have Natasha on our show this Thursday, November 14th at 1 p.m. Natasha Caverderis. And she's based out of Hamilton. So we're going to talk to her about being a professional power lifter and now being a pro wrestler as well. So I hope you guys can tune in for that show with Natasha Thursday, November 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern. The next Argo Bounce live audio show with Nick Small and myself is going to be tomorrow night, Wednesday, November 13th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. And Nick and I are going to break down the Argos win over the Alouettes in the East Final, 30-28, and we're going to preview the 2024 CFL's Grey Cup Championship game between the Toronto Argonauts, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a rematch of the 2022 Grey Cup, and it's going to be an interesting Grey Cup without the Toronto Argonauts' number one quarterback, Chad Kelly, who broke his ankle against the Alouettes, so he's going to be done for this game, and he'll be out for a while. Nick Arbuckle will be starting for the Argos, and the Argos did sign Brian Scott back to the team as their number 3 quarterback, so it'll be Arbuckle, Cameron Dukes, and Brian Scott, and kickoff Sunday night is Sunday night, November 17th, 6 o'clock, kickoff from BC Place and British Columbia, Vancouver, British Columbia, between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Toronto Argonauts for this year's Grey Cup game. And Nick and I will be on 7:45 tomorrow night on the Argo Bounce Live audio show. Our season 3 is wrapping up soon, and hopefully we can wrap it up with an Argos Grey Cup win against the very good Winnipeg Blue Bombers team that's playing in their fifth straight Grey Cup, the first CFL team to play in 5 Grey Cups in a row since the 1978 to 1982 then Edmonton Eskimos, who are now the Edmonton Elks. And we're going to have a special guest tomorrow night too, so please tune into the Argo Bounce Live audio show with Nick Small and myself tomorrow night, November 13th, 7:45 p.m., and we have a special guest coming on to join me and Nick as well. And as always, guys, if you're looking to adopt, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society. 1650 Dunbar Road here in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0. Or please visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. I'm right now currently selling 2025 Cambridge Humane Society calendars for $10 only. If you'd like a calendar, please email me at cpalme19@gmail.com, or you can DM me on my social media pages. I'm trying to raise $150 for the Cambridge District Humane Society, and the calendars are great. And if you're from out of town, shipping will be a little bit extra, and you can also pay me through PayPal as well, cpalme19@gmail.com. So if you'd like a 2025 calendar, please consider supporting the shelter and the homeless animals on their buying calendar as well. And if you're also looking to volunteer, you can do it through their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. And all the animals up for adoption there, their profiles are on the website as well. And they're doing a 50-50 raffle monthly draw at the Cambridge District Humane Society. Click on events and you can get your tickets through there as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is hosted by yours truly, Chris Palme, is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our radio station's website is wqefm.radio12345.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Chris Palme. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. Also, guys, I have joined the Cameo family. If you'd like a personalized video from yours truly, click on cameo.com and then type in Chris Palme, and I'd be happy to do a personalized video message for you as well through Cameo. So make sure you check me out on cameo.com. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out Barry Cullen for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, their great selection of all electric vehicles or Cadillac products. And you can also call the dealership at 519-824-0210 or email them at info@barrycullen.com. Speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, check out a 2025 Equinox RS lease from $256 bi-weekly. That's like $128 a week at 6.9% interest with a $2,750 down payment on an ultra low kilometer lease up to 48 months. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is now sponsored by Wellington Brewery. Check out their website, wellingtonbrewery.ca. They're at 950, not far from Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 950 Woodlawn Road West here in Guelph, Ontario. Try a Welly on. And also try a country ale beer, a country brown ale beer for $2.97 a can as well. And also, please remember to drink responsibly as well. So Wellington Brewery has been here in Guelph since 1985, and they have a great selection of craft beers, ale beers, lager beers as well. And I want to say thank you to Jackie at Wellington Brewery for coming aboard Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Live with CD t-shirts are coming soon. They are priced at $20. They'll come in any color, and sizes are going to be medium, large, extra large, double extra large, and maybe a couple triple extra larges as well. Also, guys, you can check out this content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP, and make sure you hit that follow notification. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com, and they have business plans and professional plans that I have as well. So StreamYard.com, and I proudly have been with StreamYard now for 4 years. They're a great live streaming service. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like notification to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show on these audio platforms. Finally, you can email the show Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. And again, I want to say thank you to my guest today, Arma Benoit, a comedian out of Atlanta, Georgia, for coming on here today. And make sure you check out her, she's on Linktree, and she's on all social media platforms as well. Again, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCullen.com and WellingtonBrewery.ca, Thursday, November 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Natasha Cavarderas. And she is a former power lifter and now a pro wrestler out of Hamilton, Ontario. So I'm really looking forward to having her. And the Argo Bounce live audio show, episode 19, Grey Cup preview, tomorrow night, Wednesday, November 13th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, with Nick Small, myself, and a special guest talking Argos Blue Bombers Grey Cup, which is going to be this Sunday, November 17th at 6 p.m. as well. And Thursday Night Football, battle for the NFC East, Washington Commanders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field at 8:15. And that's about it, everybody. I want to say thank you again to Arma Benoit for coming on here today. And thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on my audio platforms and on WQEE 99.1 FM, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and Wellington Brewery here in Guelph. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night at 7:45 Eastern with Nick Small talking Toronto Argonauts. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and thanks again for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show.